Hey guys, what's going on? So this is Juan Rojas, the broker with JPR International Real Estate, and today I have Cynthia Rojas, who happens to be my sister-in-law, but she also works at FIU in the online department. So welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you.
All right. So first of all, for the people who don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, my name is Cynthia Rojas. To give you a little bit of my background, I was actually born in Venezuela and I moved here when I was about 10 years old. I began my educational career in Miami-Dade College, and then I transferred over to the University of Florida to finish a bachelor's in sociology. And to no surprise, I graduated, and that's when I really found out what I wanted to do. So I spent 4 years going to school, not knowing absolutely what I wanted to do in life. And it wasn't until that last semester that I realized what is it that I wanted to do. So by that time, I had already finished a 4 year degree, and it wasn't in what I wanted to do. So I went ahead and enrolled in a professional certificate at the University of Miami when I moved back home, where I wanted to learn more about the field of human resources, which is what I wanted to do. I then, once I finished that certification, I realized that human resources has many branches, and what caught most of my attention was recruitment and training and development. So I wanted to learn more about it, and I went back to school to get my master's degree. There at FIU, I enrolled in the Human Resources Development and Adult Education program. And the last semester of my master's degree, I applied for a job at FIU Online as an instructional designer, where I began my professional career. And I've been there since. I made my 10 years actually just this, in April. April 16th was my 10-year anniversary there at FIU Online. I love it there, and I plan to stay there for a little bit longer, hopefully.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Sounds good. So, by the way, I didn't say this at the beginning, which maybe I should have, but the reason that I wanted to have Cynthia, who's an online, your title's pretty solid. So basically, she knows everything about online learning, right? And she does that, and she designs courses for FIU. And so today, most of the kids are doing online learning, right? Whether they're 4 years old or 92 years old, right?
Yep.
Everyone's just focused on online learning. So I figured it'd be fun and interesting to get some insights from a professional who can give us some ideas as to what actually works, what uh, what are maybe some tips that she can share with us about online learning, about how our kids should do it or not do it, what to do, what to avoid, and anyway, some of these things. So first of all, how is your family doing now during
So
this time? How are you guys doing?
everything is well, thankfully. My husband and I are very blessed to have stable and essential quote unquote jobs because everything is online nowadays. So
Uh-huh,
my job is definitely very secure with FIU at the moment.
uh-huh.
But most importantly, we all have health. We're all healthy. We're doing well, and trying to be as calm as possible, because once you lose that calm, it goes downhill. It gets very zen. Absolutely. With two kids at home, you have to be zen.
Yes, yes. Meditate, pray, whatever
Yes,
you want to do, right? Try
correct.
to
Yes.
keep the liquor to a minimum, right?
It's only at past after hours.
Yeah,
That
after
doesn't
hours.
happen during the days.
So anyway, so I guess first tell us a little bit about what are some of the challenges that you've seen recently, like during the last 4 6 weeks, right during this pandemic, with the students. What are some of the biggest issues that have come up for you guys?
So as far in my position, or at least in my career at FIU, I have the benefit of seeing things from both perspectives, the faculty and the students, because I teach and I also do all the back end with a faculty member. So from the student perspective, I have seen that psychologically it has taken a big toll on all of our students. because so I teach 3 classes every semester, and towards the end of the semester, which is when everything is coming to an end, we have already been a month into all this shenanigans, and the students are really starting to feel like very overwhelmed. So I got a lot of emails of students telling me, their families are going through hard times financially. They have lost their jobs. All these things are happening within their family that they just feel very overwhelmed. And one of the last things I did this semester was send them all a message, because I cannot think of anything but how brave they were to be able to finish the semester successfully, because I can tell you that the grades that I saw throughout my 3 courses were phenomenal for what we have been going through since the middle of the semester, if not the beginning of it almost. So I think they were so brave to still, despite all the situations they were going through, to still be able to finish their semester successfully and get good grades. So it has taken a big toll psychologically for them. But at the same time, I think maybe school has helped them keep themselves busy, and I would say quote unquote entertained, but keep themselves busy throughout all this, and just continue pushing through. So they definitely persevere and came out winning at the end of the semester. So I was very happy and proud of all of them. And then on the faculty perspective, the most challenging thing has been technology. Believe it or not,
Really?
they have been teaching online for a while, but the way that we do business in our institution is that we do a lot for them. So because we do a lot for them, and all of a sudden the entire university had to go online, we now had to, all hands on deck to help not only our online faculty, but also our face-to-face faculty. So that hand holding that we used to do was no longer an option, and we had to kind of cut down on that help and kind of teach them how to do things rather than do it for them, so that we can empower them to do more themselves and be able to help a greater community.
So let me ask you, sorry to interrupt you, but
Mhm.
I mean, how important do you think it is for the faculty, for teachers, for parents to know how to use technology, I mean, today, and to help their kids as well? Because I'm sure that
Right.
there's probably some kids out there, maybe they're, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8, and if they're supposed to do online learning somehow, and the parents
Right.
aren't quite there technologically, I mean,
Right.
what are your
So I
thoughts?
think technology is always a challenge. It doesn't matter what year it is. Technology has always been and will always be a challenge, because you may learn a tool today. We may be teaching or training somebody on a tool today, but 6 months from now, a year from now, a new version is going to come out and may look completely different than the one that they learned. So they're going to have to be retrained. So I think rather than, we know technology is always going to be a challenge. So I think the focus should be on how are we training, or what's our thought process when it comes to developing those trainings for our customers or clients, so that they continue to be effective and efficient, so that people learn. I think that's really the key to how to manage technology changes throughout time.
I think you're totally right. So, would you agree that, I mean, definitely the kids pick up technology faster than adults? Yes.
Right. Yes.
So, I mean, let's talk a little bit about what are some of the best ways to do online learning. Like
Right.
what are some things that kids and parents that may be watching this eventually, what are some things that they should keep in mind if they're trying to do online learning? Like, where should they, I mean, should they, put their laptop like in a closet? Is it okay for, for the 3 kids to be sitting around the dining table, all of them doing
Mhm.
their work? Is that realistic for them to, like, for parents to expect their kids to actually focus like in an environment like that? Or, I mean, I don't know,
Right.
what are some tips?
So those are a lot of pieces that you're asking that may or may not like come together. But I think that when it comes to, the psychology of learning, or how best a student can learn, it really depends on the individual, because it doesn't, I mean, you can give the same content to 10 different students and put them under different environments, and it really depends how the student learns that they will be able to grasp that information. So for example, if you have a 10-year-old, and you know that your child is the type that needs to be very, very quiet space for them to focus and learn, you want to provide that space for them to be successful. If you know that, your kid is a teenager and he spends his time in his room doing his homework with the music super loud and still manages to get, really good grades, that's the way that he learns. So you want to make sure that he has that environment to be able to learn what he's seen. So I think that, although the modality of online versus face-to-face, it's different for each. I teach both face-to-face and online. And my students, my face-to-face students tell me, I just can't do online, I can't focus. Well, it's not that you can't focus, is that you haven't found what works for you to be able to learn online. So that's the number one thing I teach, or try to teach especially my freshman students. Whether you're going to school face-to-face or online, or whether you're studying in a dorm or at home, you need to find what works for you, because that's the only way that you're going to be successful learning what you need to learn in your environment. So it's different for all. I can't give a one recipe that's going to work for everybody. It's really about knowing yourself and how you learn that's going to set you up for success.
So I think I totally agree. And I think it's interesting because, you teach at FIU, so that's, college, right? But for some of the kids that are maybe in, middle school or high school, right? The modality there is different, right? You
Right.
show up and you follow this very tight structure, right? And then you do homework after school, right?
Right.
But in college, you kind of drop into the classroom. If you're doing like physical classroom, you listen
Right.
to a lecture, and then you're expected to handle everything else outside. So I think it requires a lot of self-discipline too,
Right.
right? And like you were saying, for the students to figure out which is the best way that they learn. Do they learn better
Right.
like in a group setting, right, at the library, or do they learn better like at Starbucks, right? How is it that they're gonna
Right.
like internalize all this information?
Yeah, and I think when it comes to K through 12, that now they're having to homeschool and the whole situation, not to add on more work to the parents, but at the same time, you want to be able to sit with your child and analyze, what methods they learn best to be able to help them, because at the end of the day, you want them to succeed. So even if it's taking a little bit more of your time as a parent to, ask your son or your daughter those questions, when do you feel more focused, or when do you feel that you're paying more attention to the teacher, and be able to help them out to find that best environment for them. But I do think that K through 12, they are going to school, and whether they are awake or not, engaged or not, they're seeing the teacher there. The only difference is that now they're seeing the teacher online, and they may have more distractions. So I think that at the very minimum, if you just make sure that you keep them in a space where they don't have other distractions, I think that may work. Like I know I've seen examples of parents where they let their students, their children view their lectures in their bed, like just sitting on their bed. Like that's, students gonna get sleepy, they're gonna get tired. That's not a place for learning. So you want to make sure that as a parent, you tell them, no, sit in the office. If you have a home
Right.
office, or if you have, the kitchen table, or whatever space you have where they're going to be alert and awake, I think it's something that could work for a lot.
So it's funny that you say that, because my son, who's in high school now, was telling me that they were having like a Zoom meeting with one of the teachers recently, and so I told him, make sure that you look decent, right? And then I asked him afterwards, hey, how did that Zoom meeting go? It was like at 8 in the morning or something, right? Like, so really early. And
Yeah.
And so he at least sat up on his bed, right, on his phone. And so that's progress. But he was telling me that he could tell that some of his other friends
Yeah.
were literally horizontal on the bed with
The
like,
bed.
their bed just like this, and
Yes.
it looked like this. And they hadn't, made their, done their hair or anything. So it was just probably a hot mess.
Yes.
But I think that I think that the online learning, issue is really intriguing, because there's only going to be more and more of
Yeah,
online learning.
absolutely.
I mean, like in
Absolutely.
our, in our brokerage, all the training is online, and because we're just very reliant on we rely a lot, practically almost everything is technology. So like the MLS, right? How we search for properties, how we do market analysis. Now we're showing, our listings. I mean, literally through Zoom or video or
Right.
virtual walkthrough. So everything is reliant on technology in one way or another.
Yeah.
And sometimes we've had agents who tell us, like the training is online, but they'll tell us that they learn better in person, like somebody telling them and showing them in person. But it's the same as watching a video, right? So, I mean, what do you think the future of learning, online learning, is going to be like?
So there's definitely a lot more online coming for sure. I see it already at FIU, where I have faculty who teach both face-to-face and online, and they've had to switch their face-to-face to remote, because they're not calling it online, so they're calling it remote. And they're already telling me that they are going to want to keep it online for the future, that if they're already putting all this effort into making it remote, that why not just make it online and not have to go to campus, So I definitely foresee a lot more online coming in the future, whether it is at the institution or at the corporate level, just everywhere. I do foresee a lot more online coming on board, even when it comes to teleworking, because I think that there's just so many benefits to online learning that it's just going to grow. Like it's just a matter of time, but it's going to grow even more than what it already has been in the last 20 years. So I do think that some of the, I guess, some best practices when it comes to online learning, let's say for you that you run your own brokerage, is that, when it comes to training, I think that organizations need to keep in mind that, you can't provide your employees or clients with a, 3-hour virtual training, because the reality is that they're not going to sit there for 3 hours watching something. And if they do, they're not going to grasp all that information. I think.
Sorry to interrupt you on that. So it's okay. So if it's not 3 hours, which,
you
by the
have
way,
that.
so we have we have our training as like 17 hours, but it's like broken up into short, short videos, right? 5, 6, 8 minutes, 13 minutes, something like that. But
Yes.
But on that point, realistically, I mean, more, you've trained on online learning and what works and what doesn't. What is, I guess, the maximum amount of attention span that the average human can have, like, on one topic?
Right. So it really is just 5 minutes, but we typically suggest to do. We typically suggest to chunk their content, if they're going to do videos, between 5 to 15 minutes. But really, I would say 5 to 10.
So 5
because
minutes, okay.
Yeah, the attention span is very, very little. Within 5 minutes, you're going to be thinking of something. You're going to be looking at the fly on the wall. You're going to be doing something completely different. So really, to pay attention, like, for 5 minutes, you can do it. After that, you're going to think about something else within those 5 minutes. So you want to make sure that you chunk your information into those smaller segments. And then make sure that you have some sort of post-training assessments to see if you really learned something about it. Also, when it comes to post assessments, you also want to make sure that you have a feedback survey to make sure that the training that you are providing to your employees, they are as effective as you think that they are,
Good
or
point. Good
efficient.
point.
Because sometimes you may think, this is great, this is how I will learn it, but that may not be the case for somebody else. So the more feedback that you get on people watching your trainings, the more you're going to be able to improve it as time goes on.
That's a really good point. And this thing, I mean, I think this is applicable not just for kids, but I think for everybody, because I think today everyone has to be a continuous learner. There's just, I don't see another way around it. I mean, between technology and just everything, changing so quickly, just in the business world, like, social media, anyone who's in business has to know social media, or at the very least understand some of it and hire somebody else to do it for you. But social media is something that's been around for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. Like, that's it. So if you graduated from business school 20 years ago, you didn't learn that in school. I mean, I have a good friend of mine who runs a social media company, and he didn't graduate from university. And he is, he's a professor. He teaches at a university in Texas, which I'm not going to mention the name, but he does have a lot of practical, real world, applicable knowledge on social media and online media and all this stuff. But he didn't learn any of that from from college. Not to say that college isn't important, but simply that learning, knowing how to learn is so important. Right.
Well, I'll tell you this much: if I know anybody that doesn't know what to do as far as career, I would say to go into marketing, because that could be applied to anything. And talking about social media, a lot of it is marketing. So I think that, maybe people that have that type of background are the ones that I have seen a lot going into like social media, managers or opening up their own companies, but it's, all about marketing. And the reason why I thought about that is because when it comes to online learning, a lot of it, you also have to think about marketing principles to apply to them, so that
100%.
you make it more engaging and, for students. So.
Right. And again, the reason that I think this is so interesting is that the student is not just the 14-year-old learning, civics, but it could be a 62-year-old employee that you need to teach something to. So like, I'm always doing, little videos and tutorials for my clients and stuff like that. And so I'll record my screen. And you're right. Like, I always have to make a conscious effort to figure out. That's why I was asking you, how long is the average attention span, right? Because I want to get to the point, but sometimes it requires a little bit more detail, more than 5 minutes. But you're absolutely right. I don't know if I'm losing people like past the 8th minute,
So that's a benefit of online learning, that you're recording things so they can always rewatch.
That was kind of the whole, that was the whole point, is that if they fell asleep halfway through it, they could always rewind and fast forward and try to find their spot again. But, it's just so crazy, especially like YouTube, right? Like I tell my mom, for instance, and, my mom is already kind of semi-retired, but she asks me questions sometimes about, things, right? Technology and how to do this or that. And so, I tell her 2 things: go to Google and go to YouTube. Like, chances are you're going to find the answer there before I figure out how to properly explain to you the answer. And plus, you're not going to want to listen to me, drag on for 23 minutes trying to figure it out. You'll probably find a video that's 4 minutes, and if you don't like it, then you can just stop it and watch something else. But I mean, again, it's just amazing. So anyway, let me ask you a question. What are some practical tips that students of all ages, kids and adults, should take away and implement today during the coronavirus, this pandemic, the stay at home, right? If they need to learn, like what should their mindset be like around, for the next 4 to 8 weeks to years ahead?
So definitely, obviously if you're on the younger side, make sure if you're a parent and you're watching this and you have kids that are younger, definitely teach them to have a growth mindset. And if you're an adult and are watching this, make sure that you learn to have a growth mindset, because nowadays, especially when it comes to technology, you need to be able to adapt to that new technology very quickly. You need to be open-minded to learn new things or new ways of doing things. So having that growth mindset is really key to success when it comes to technology or not. But in this particular conversation that we're having, when it comes to technology, having a growth mindset and an open mindset, and something that has worked for me for many years is just go with the flow. Coming from a department where we have so many changes so often, whether it's structurally or new technologies coming into place, you kind of have to just go with the flow. If something new comes your way, you just kind of got to tackle that and learn it and move on. The whatever old technology there was is in the past. Don't even think about it anymore. Just go with the flow.
And I think that's, I think that, it's happened to me, and I know it happens probably to a lot of people, and especially, the older the person is, the harder it is for us in general to adapt, to be more flexible, right?
Yeah.
But I found that, a lot, that, once you figure something out, right? Okay, I figured out how to do things this particular way, but now it's gone, and I was like,
Right.
crap, now I have to learn a brand new way of doing things. It's like this, it's like the cell phone, right?
Right. It's like getting a new phone. You have to learn it.
But it's, I have to like learn a new phone practically every single, I don't know, like every 3 years, at least, because, the last time that we went to, to replace our phones, I remember my wife went to AT&T and she said, listen, my phone is slow and it's just not working and we don't know what's going on. And the guy who was younger, he must have been like, I'm 39, and he must have been like 21. He looked at us like, like we were, like we were old, right? He goes, yes, no, it's just that, that phone is not good anymore. And we're like,
Right.
what are you talking about? It's perfect. It doesn't have a scratch on it. Like, we've only had it for like 2 years or something like that. She goes, yeah, it's just that, the new upgrades and the new, this or that or the other, it's just not compatible, and you just, bottom line, you have to buy a new phone. And we had a whole conversation about this, like, this is just the companies, and they just want us to buy a new phone, and that's they build it into it, but there's no way around it.
Yeah, there's no way around it. You have to be open-minded and, like you said, flexible. You got to be able to learn things and fast, because one day fast. When we transition to, let's say we're working with one learning management system, and they decide that we're going with a new one, we have to transfer everything and we have to do everything quickly, because classes are not going to stop, and we have contracts till a certain time, a certain year, and everything is money. So if we don't do it fast, then we waste money and time. So everything has to be learned quickly.
Yes, people. So if there's anything that we take away from this whole conversation, is that we have to learn fast. Well, let me ask you this, I guess, as a final, thought, because otherwise I would probably, keep going with my curious questions. Which is the best way to learn fast? It's easy to say just learn fast, but how do you learn fast?
Practice makes perfect. So it's the one thing I tell all my faculty members. I tell them, the more that you use it, the better you're gonna get at it. So like explore different, pages. And we use Canvas as our learning management system. So I tell them to play around with it, just kind of click everywhere just to see how things work, what functions. It's like when you get on a phone, what's the first thing you do? You start playing around with it to see how things work. So the more that you do it, the faster you're going to be the more comfortable you're going to be with it faster. So you want to make sure that you just kind of just explore, just explore.
And what would you tell somebody who says, you know what, I can't do technology. I just don't, I don't have the patience for technology. I'm just not good at technology. I mean, what would you tell them?
Well, we have a lot of those that are comfortable with technology. But really, it's all a mindset. If you tell yourself you can't do it, you're not going to be able to do it. So if you just make that switch and you tell yourself, I can do it, I can learn this, have that positive attitude, and just your glass is always full. So you want to make sure that you stay optimistic about technology, and that there are a lot more benefits to technology than not learning it. So and in essence, this may sound a little cliche or whatnot, but the more that you learn technology, the younger you'll stay, because the more that you keep up with all the technologies that are coming about, you'll be able to even have conversations with anybody, any age. And I have this conversation all the time at work with some of my colleagues, because, sometimes we look at kids and, they switch technology even faster than we do, because they go from one social media platform to another within months. And it's, they learn it very quickly and they just move on. And if you want to have a conversation with, a teenager, and they're talking to you about, Snapchat, and you have no idea what it is, or TikTok, they're going to be like, what conversation am I going to have with you? Like, you don't have no idea what I'm talking about. So even as a parent, you want to make sure that you're learning all this technology, so that you have some sort of, common grounds, or at least understand what your children are talking to you about.
Right. And I think there's two things that come to mind. One is that all the technology eventually like ages up, right? So, where, today I would say even, older adults in their 70s, 80s, 90s have a smartphone, right? Where originally the people with smartphones were first like the very younger crowd, very techie crowd that was like at the forefront of trying all the new stuff, but eventually it ages up. But today, I mean, I have clients in their 80s where, we're on WhatsApp, right? They're doing video.
My grandma has a smartphone.
Right. They're on Facebook, they're liking, they're sending messages, they're sharing, they're doing like all these things. And so, when I tell, people that like that is listen, if you can do WhatsApp, if you can do Facebook, you can figure out everything else. It may take you a little bit of time, but eventually it's all learnable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. So what we'll do is we'll put your contact info, how people can reach you at the end of the video. And again, thank you so much for spending some time sharing your insights with us and with everybody else. Hopefully you guys found it valuable. I know I always get a lot of these conversations. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks, Cynthia.
Thank you.